Hey everybody, and welcome to another inspiring episode of FoundersGyan. This is episode 32, and thanks for tuning in. This week we are featuring another great entrepreneur. She is Piya Bose, the founder of Girls on the Go Club. This is shortly called GOTG, and you can find them on www.girlsonthegoclub.com. That is Girls on the Go Club, all together as one word.com. This is a only for women travel club that takes people to exotic places like Ladakh, Norway, Antarctica, etc. Pia is a full-time travel writer and researcher, and we had a great time in recording this episode. Do check out the show notes over at www.foundersgyan.com/EP32, which contains details about all that we talk on the show, as well as foundersgyan.com/top, where the top listened podcasts are featured. Alright, let's get started now. Piya Bose, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to be speaking with you today. Piya is the founder of Girls on the Go Club, GOTG, as it's shortly known. Is only for women travel club that takes women traveling to new exotic destinations like Ladakh, Nagaland, Egypt, Spain, Antarctica, etc. Piya is a corporate lawyer turned travel enthusiast. She is currently a full-time travel writer and researcher. She has written for prestigious publications like Outlook Traveler, Hindustan Times, and websites like MakeMyTrip.com. Piya, great to meet you, and thanks a lot for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your knowledge, wisdom, and time with our listeners. Thank you for agreeing to be on the show.
My pleasure.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about your journey. So can you fill in the blanks from the intro about your journey before GOTG?
Right. So I actually started traveling pretty early in life. At the age of 16, I went for this Rotary exchange program to South America. So that was my first solo trip away from family. And I come from a very small town, and I had not even, gone to tuition classes before that on my own. So that was a very, very eye-opening experience, intimidating in parts and extremely exciting in others. And it really sort of helped me to open up my mind and my thoughts to the beautiful world that lies outside and all the various cultures and perspectives that lie outside the four walls of my house and my little town. But of course, once I came back to India, I went ahead, did my traditional schooling, finished my boards, and I went on to study law at law school. It was a 5 years integrated course. And I then went ahead and joined a corporate law firm in Mumbai, where I stay now. And it was one of the highest paying corporate law firms at that time. So, and there's almost everybody wants to get into that particular firm because of the kind of pay package that you start off with. So I was sort of surrounded by all the material comforts and wealth that I could possibly imagine. But somewhere I was just not happy. Something deep down within me wanted to do more, wanted to explore, wanted to feel and understand more about the world that is that I live in, and also do something more meaningful than just getting richer. So one fine day, I just put in my papers, and I didn't have a backup plan at that point of time. I was just sort of going with the flow of things, just was guided by my instincts and the deep voice within me which said that it's okay, just take the leap of faith, because if you can take this leap of faith, you'll have like a whole new world waiting out there for you to explore at many different levels. So I just took that leap of faith, and I went on this totally unplanned and impromptu trip, which took me from Lucknow to Nepal and all the way up to Tibet. So it was while I was standing in front of the Everest, like there was a village from where you can actually see the Everest. And I just felt something stir and something change within me. And I'm like, after this, standing on the highest plateau of the world, facing the highest mountain peak of the world, if I go back to the same life that I've left behind, and if I don't do something more meaningful with my life, then it would be a complete shame. So I decided to come back and give some thought as to how I could enrich my life and So all that, of course, is in the realm of, utopia and fantasy. So the reality started only after I came back to Mumbai, because I'd pretty much spent all my, my savings on this particular trip. So I was pretty broke at that point, and I wanted to start something on my own. But since I was still not very clear as to what I really wanted to do, I did a few very different assignments and different, I helped some companies with various aspects of work, ranging from working with a gelato company as their, the legal and marketing advisor, to even doing a little stint with a travel company for a while. But also I felt that there was more to this, like there was something that I wanted to do on my own, where I could bring my creativity and my experience together to help others, in something. But as I said, I was still not very clear at that point of time. So it's one night I was just sort of lying down and thinking about, my life that so far and the journeys that I had undertaken so far and what lay ahead, what next. And suddenly I think the sum total of my life sort of fell into place. And I just figured that since I had been traveling on my own, right, since I was 16, all the way up to very recently when I went to Tibet, I just figured that I had not seen too many Indian women traveling on their own. And I was possibly the only Indian woman around who had possibly come in like months, at least in those parts of the world. So on the contrary, I saw quite a few women from Western countries traveling in these places. So I'm like, what is it that's stopping Indian women from traveling, unlike their Western counterparts? And it definitely cannot only be monetary reasons. And it's definitely got to be a mix of, say, safety issues, but largely cultural issues, which makes it seem as if traveling is a very, very dangerous activity and women should not venture out into that, world out there, which is full of jungles and dangerous people waiting to swallow you up. So I'm like, why is it that only Indian women have this issue? Why can they also not take that leap of faith again and, just surrender themselves to the universe and just explore? So these thoughts kept coming in my mind. And that's when I decided to sort of put my experience together in creating a travel forum specifically for women, where using my experience and my research, I would be able to solve travel requirements for solo women travelers from both India as well as from other countries as well. And it was pretty much like an overnight decision, because the next morning I got up and the name had come to me. It was almost like a calling, because in the same night I actually even thought of the name, and the whole concept was very clear to me. And it was pretty much the next morning that I kickstarted the whole thing and announced my first trip to Ladakh, and then, call it beginner's luck or whatever. But since then, it's been like a very enriching and a very exciting journey. But that's how Girls on the Go was born back in September 2008.
Okay, excellent. Now, can you explain in a few sentences what is Girls on the Go Club, or GOTG?
Right. So Girls on the Go is basically a travel club for women, which allows women to live out their most exotic travel dreams. So we started off initially with doing domestic destinations like Ladakh, or going to Nagaland to stay with the headhunters of Nagaland. But over the years, we've done equally and even more exciting trips, like going to Antarctica as part of an expedition cruise. We've taken women Northern Lights chasing in Norway. We've taken women camping in Mongolia with the nomads. So we've done some pretty interesting trips so far. And the whole objective of Girls on the Go is not just about showing you places, but it is to empower women through travel. It is to use travel as a medium to help women sort of evolve and become more self-reliant and self-independent, and open up their minds and their thinking process away from just domestic chores and just, what goes on in an office space, to the awesomeness of the world that we live in, and just to let them be surrounded by everything which, gives you a sense of awe and a feeling of the raw power of the universe. Because I think that really helps in a shift in perspective. And one never knows how that can come back and help you in later life. So it's basically empowering women through travel.
Okay, brilliant. Now, for our budding founders listening out there, obviously you just explained your whole story and how the idea came to you in one night, but maybe many of us are not so lucky. So, can you give us some tips on how we can come up with a good idea or a winning idea?
This might sound a little crazy, but if there is some thought which has come to your mind about something which you think you want to do, but the idea seems really bizarre and really, really strange and crazy to you. And when you speak to other people and you find them also giving you a very similar crazy response, I think that is the idea you should pursue. So that is definitely one tip I'll give to all budding entrepreneurs, that never dismiss the power of being crazy, because that is where, the best of ideas are really born. And of course, if you're going the most structured way where, you want to sort of do a lot of research before you come up with the idea which you really want to chase. So in that case, don't just think of an idea, or don't zero in upon an idea which is all about just getting you richer. Because if it is money which you're going to be pursuing, for sure, like after some time when, because starting a startup is obviously not the easiest thing to do, and there will be challenges, you will want to quit at some point. So never let money be the ruling factor when pursuing upon a particular idea. So just keep these two things in mind, and I think the rest of it, definitely leave it up to your intuition and connect with yourself. Don't connect to what people around you think. Just look within, just think deeply. I think the answers are all there. So just tap into your own thought process and you'll get a brilliant idea for your startups.
Okay, excellent advice, Piya. I really like it. Now, let's say we have an idea, and so what are the steps one needs to follow in order to make the idea into a reality? So maybe you could just walk us through your own journey and give us an idea of what needs to be done once, let's say, you have an idea.
Right. So I'll add a little more to your question. If you have an idea and you are really rich and you have like rich relatives who are willing to support you, I think pretty much almost every idea can be immediately executed. But what happens is that a lot of people don't have the kind of funds to kickstart an idea, and that is where the main problem lies. So my advice to you, in case you're trying to start a startup and you don't have enough money to start a capital, is firstly, don't let that intimidate you. Because the whole concept of a startup is about entrepreneurship, which means taking a certain amount of risk and coming up with innovative ideas. And it is the absence of money that actually pushes you to want to innovate. So that is when you come up with, ideas which you can actually, where you can actually execute it in a very, very interesting manner. You could look at, say, collaborative working models. You could look at things like co-branding, etc. And now with the age of the internet and social media, you don't even need a PR agent to really sort of get the word out. So you can pretty much use the power of social media, internet, etc., as well as really innovate and really try to stand apart. Because if your product or your service that you're offering is interesting enough, you can be sure about this, that you don't have to go around telling people about what you're doing. People will themselves get to know about it, and they will themselves want to know more about it. So in the strange way that the world works, which I don't think we understand too well, but this is the way it actually happens. So you don't have to, you just focus on the product, and you focus on that particular service to make it as interesting as possible. And I think the rest, just leave it up to the forces. So yeah.
Okay, excellent. Now, I know you've been to a lot of different places during your travels, but can you tell us one place that you have traveled to that turned out to be very different from your expectations?
Right. So just last September, incidentally, I had gone on this trail, the Mahabharata trail, which took me from Haryana to Uttar Pradesh. Now, this particular belt is typically seen as very unsafe for women to travel, especially solo women travelers. So obviously, there was a lot of concern surrounding my proposed adventure. And especially when you hear of Haryana, all that you hear about are, crimes related to women. So I was definitely concerned as to how it would turn out, because I had also built this whole stereotype in my head that it's a very dangerous place to go to. But very interestingly, I had the exact opposite experience of what I thought I would have. But of course, I had taken proper precautions. I had informed my family as to where I would be staying, rented a car from a reliable company, etc., etc. But the overall experience was like really amazing, because I actually felt like I was traveling in time, because I was digging up all these old wells and these temples which were forgotten by time. I visited the Draupadi Ka Kuan, which is in the middle of a sugarcane field in Uttar Pradesh. I visited Kurukshetra and Jyotisar, where apparently Lord Krishna, imparted the Bhagavad Gita to Arjun. So whether or not one chooses to believe in the mythology, the trip was literally like a trip back into time. It was like being in a time warp. And I got excellent treatment from people in Haryana. So I just feel that all of us tend to build up certain stereotypes about, different places, based of course on an average of an opinion that you get from the media as well as people who may have visited. But I think it's very important to go and visit and bust the myth or the stereotype for your own self. That is, of course, if you really want to go to the place for a particular purpose, but don't let a particular image about a place ever stop you from going to that place. So that is definitely one advice that I have for all travelers. So just be bold, be self-assured, take proper precautions. I'm not saying that go to a country when there is a war going on, but if there is stability in the country politically, but you know that there could be safety issues in the place, take your precautions, but please go and visit.
Okay, excellent. Now, we all hear about founders sacrificing family time to make their ventures a success. Can you tell us a bit more about your own family and how you manage to balance business and family?
Right. In fact, one of the reasons why I chose to start my own business was because I wanted to give more time to my family. So, I sort of work from home or wherever I am at a particular point of time. So I'm pretty, not a very office-centric person at all. So the whole idea is that if I have more control over my time, because what we don't understand is, with all due respect to, companies, but when you're working for a particular company, whether you like it or not, the company buys your time. So the thing is that time as an intangible asset is something which we don't really give much thought to. So I felt that, if I start my own business and if I have more control over my time, I can decide when I want to use it and how. And I can definitely spend more time with my family members. And I'm glad that I made the decision, because today, I can center my work and I can figure out, how much of work I'm going to take up, what assignments I'll take up, where do I want to travel, keeping in mind, how much time I want to spend with my family, because that is definitely priority, because I think we are all defined by our family. Otherwise, honestly, we don't really have an identity. So I think it's very important to keep your family or your well-wishers or the few people you really want to spend time with as number one priority, and centering your work around that. So yeah, it's definitely helped to have control over my time.
Okay, excellent. Is there a daily or morning ritual that you follow? Can you share it with myself and our listeners? It could be a personal thing like, say, working out or meditation, or a professional one like maybe having a status meeting first thing, etc.
I wish I was so super organized as that, but unfortunately, that's not how my morning starts. So depending on whatever time my morning starts, I keep it free flowing depending on work and travel, etc. But there is this, there's this zone between sleep and actually waking up, which I think is the most productive part of my day, because that is the time when I think your imagination and your creativity is at its active best. So it is in that sort of, transition zone that I do most of my thinking in terms of sort of reflecting on the work that I may have, that I'm doing currently, or the kind of concepts that I want to build, or the strategies that I want to come up with.
Great. Now, let's talk about co-founders. So you started GOTG on your own. So how do you validate your ideas without a co-founder? Do you have a mentor, a senior team? What mechanics do you have in place to make sure you're on the right path, or somebody to advise you when things need to be changed, etc.?
Right. I take a lot of feedback from clients, I allow them to rip me apart if necessary, because I think the real feedback is only going to come from your end user. So I really take their opinion into consideration. And that has really, really helped me in the course of the last few years that I've been in business. And besides that, I have been lucky to be mentored in the recent past by some very, prolific individuals, if I might use that term. Currently, I'm undergoing a slightly more structured mentoring process from the Cherry Blair Women's Mentoring Forum, actually. So I got selected for this particular mentoring project. So that is something that has just started as of now. But initially, when I started off my business, frankly speaking, I did not have a mentor or a guide, and I had absolutely nobody I knew from the travel industry. So that part was actually a trial by fire. And I learned from my own mistakes, and, you grow as you make your mistakes pretty much. But it's good to have a mentor definitely to guide you if that's possible. But I think the biggest teacher is going to be the mistakes that you make, the experiences that you have, and just allow your clients to basically tell you what is going wrong or what issues they may have, because that criticism is very, very important, and one needs to be open to accept the feedback because that's the only way to grow and move ahead.
Okay, excellent. Now, can you tell us something about yourself that is not commonly known?
I love writing. So if I wasn't a lawyer and if I wasn't into tourism, I think I would definitely be into literature, because that was what I initially wanted to. So I have been travel writing for a while. I've written for publications like the National Geographic and, for newspapers as well. So that is something I really like to do. And when I'm traveling, I keep looking for stories. So like, for instance, I'm currently going to, I'm just about to head out for a trip to Punjab and Haryana once again, which seems to be my favorite location right now. But this time I'm going on a different mission. I'm basically going to try and sort of trace the course of the ancient river Saraswati and all the Harappa and the Mohenjo-daro trails that used to lie along its banks. So the whole idea of this exercise is going to be to understand a little bit more about how climate change can actually change the course of human history. So to that extent, like, I'm also sort of researching a little bit on through my travels to understand things which can actually benefit the world that we live in. Because if you look at the river Saraswati and the fact that it dried up, because of that, an entire civilization was forced to migrate and resettle and, leave its colonies. And we don't really know to what extent they were sort of affected by that climate change. We even hear that there may have been nuclear activity during that time, because you have like skeletal remains which have sort of radiation on them, and you can see that there must have been some sort of nuclear attack at that point of time. And then you look at the world that we live in right now, and you see that we've had the atomic bomb blasts in Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and even right now, if you look at climate change conversations that are going on globally, like, there's just so much of pollution and there is just so much of global warming that is happening that it is like not very long before, like, the ice caps melt completely, and then we really would not know what to do. So basically trying to understand through my own travels at a personal level first, and then hopefully, writing an article about it or sharing it online or whatever, but sort of sensitizing people a little bit more to the world that we live in and the real issues that need our immediate attention as intelligent beings. So that is something which I also do on the side.
Okay, excellent. Now, what is the best advice somebody has given you, or alternatively best advice you have heard?
Yeah, the best advice that I have heard is that he who heads an orchestra must turn his back to the crowd. So if you are, leading a particular mission, or if you are the owner of a startup, or, you want to do something which you like to do, just turn your back to what people have to say. I mean, listen to everybody, but you have to keep your focus on the road ahead. If you're going to be bogged down by criticisms that people may have, or, people trying to pull you down, or they don't have enough faith in your vision or your dream, then that's only going to slow down your process and your journey onto the road ahead. So just focus on the road, go by your intuitions, go by your gut feeling, and just do what you want to really do.
Okay, great advice. I really like it. If you like the show, do follow us on Facebook and Twitter. The link is www.facebook.com/FoundersGyan and twitter.com/FoundersGyan. Both these provide you daily tips and articles as well as resources to help and inspire your startup. There are multiple tips per day. Some examples of these tips would be articles on the latest startups, growth hacking tips, how do you build team for startups, how to get funding, etc. So don't forget facebook.com/FoundersGyan and twitter.com/FoundersGyan. Now, is there any specific advice you would like to give to women entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So women entrepreneurs, I think, especially in the Indian context, the only advice that I'm going to have for you is that, I mean, it's phenomenal how women, at least in India, have been balancing family life as well as work life for the last few decades, because the very phenomena of working women, like women going to offices, etc., is a fairly recent concept in India when you compare it to Western countries. So I think like women have always kept family as the core of their work, whatever work they have kept, and I'm going to say that continue to do so. I mean, when I say this, I mean I should not be misinterpreted to say you should, when you should just be with family and not work and all that. But I see a lot of women, or for that matter, it's even men for that matter, who sort of get so caught up in just the professional aspect of living that they actually forget to live and spend time with family. So I think there is a great pleasure to be derived from being able to keep family as the center of whatever you do. So you don't have to be ashamed ever if for keeping family first and then figuring out your work schedule around it. So that is definitely one thing which I'm going to stress upon. And the second thing that I think women entrepreneurs in India should sort of focus on is just be bold. Like, don't think of what can go wrong and how's the money going to come, because thanks to the kind of policies the government has also now come up with, where you're getting a tax holiday for 3 years now. So if you're a woman who wants to start a business in India, this is the best time to start it. So don't let money definitely be a hindrance in starting something which you really like to do.
Okay, excellent. Now, can you tell us about your worst entrepreneurial moment and how did you turn it around and the lessons you learned from that?
Right. So there is this quote which I recently read, where there was a symbol of 0, which is nothing, and there was a symbol of infinity, which is the inverted 8, right? So the quote said that everything is nothing with a twist. So I found that very interesting, because I think when we say that what is the worst moment, I think those moments which you think are the worst are possibly your most, empowering moments. So, I mean, of course, I've had quite a few challenges, but there was this one point where, I was taking some clients out on a trip, and there was this one particular woman who constantly kept attacking me and the work that I was doing at every possible opportunity, So it really discouraged me, and it was sort of hampering my own experience of, handling the trip. I tried every way to, explain to her, but it was just not happening. So after the trip finished and I came back, and I was really upset. I'm like, am I only going to be seen as a tour operator by clients? Will I not be seen as another human being who's, you may have all these lofty ideals that you are trying to empower women through travel, etc., etc. But do people, you are giving this service to, do they really understand what you do? And is it even worth it? Should I just go back to my former profession where I could have earned like a lot of money and I don't have to deal with this kind of behavior? And, is it worth it? So I really had to ask myself that question. And it took me some weeks before I finally was fine. And I decided that no matter, what happens, I'm definitely not going to stop doing what I'm doing. But what happened as a consequence of that particular experience is that it helped me to rethink about the way that I was working. So I made a few structural changes in my business. I sort of changed a bit of the philosophy with which I was doing the work. And those steps really, really helped me because I was able to function a lot more efficiently than I was earlier. So I think using any negative experiences to sort of do a rethinking or a reanalyzing of your current work can only help you to evolve in your own business.
Okay, excellent. We just have a few more questions. We are almost at the end of the interview. Now, what is the future that you envision for your company?
So there's one thing that I really want to do. A couple of things, actually. One is that I want to make my trips accessible for people with physical disabilities. So I want to figure out a way of how to achieve that. And the other thing is that I also want to make my trips accessible to women from rural India, because I think there is a huge power and there's a huge amount of potential that the women in these rural areas have. So I have some plans to sort of work with the ministry and see how Girls on the Go can actually be a conduit for interesting travel-related experiences at a social, which can actually help empower them socially.
Okay, so good luck with those two initiatives. I wish you luck.
Thanks so much.
Now, can you recommend any books or resources for our budding entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think definitely read Arthashastra. So that is, I think, a very, very good book which every entrepreneur should definitely read, because it combines ancient wisdom with modern strategy, which can be, I think, applicable to any startups around the world. So yeah, that's one book I would recommend.
Okay, excellent. Now, you started Girls on the Go way back in September 2008, right? So it's almost 7.5 years now?
Right.
If you had to do this all over again, let's say you had to start Girls on the Go Club maybe today, what would you do different?
I don't think I would do anything different. Certainly not, because there have been ups as well as downs. But when I think of the whole experience and, where I started off with and, the place that I'm now, I think it's been a very, very fulfilling experience. So I would make the same mistakes. I would have the same trials of fire, because without doing that, I don't think, I would be where I am today. So I don't wish for anything to be different, actually.
Okay, excellent answer. Now, I just have one final question, but before that, how can our listeners get in touch with you? Are you active on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter? What's the best way to reach out to you, apart from obviously your official Girls on the Go Club page?
Right. So we have a Facebook page of Girls on the Go. That's one way of getting in touch with us. And of course, a website. It's girlsonthegoclub.com. And we're also on Instagram. That's Piya_Bose, where I put up pictures of my travels. And I'm also on Twitter at the GOTG Club. Okay,
excellent. So people can reach directly to you through these means, right?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I just have one final question, but before we move on to that, I just want to take the time to acknowledge and thank you for sharing your knowledge to myself and our listeners. And I'm also very grateful for the value you're adding into the world, and specifically to travel in India by means of your startup. Really, it's great that you're doing something like this. So with that, we'll move on to the final question. So if there is one gyan that you could give our would-be founders, what would that be?
I think the one gyan that would really help is just sit down in a calm and quiet place and make a list of all your soft skills. Figure out what are your soft skills, like whether are you a creative person? Do you have a leadership skill? Are you innovative? Just list down all your soft skills and then figure out that using all these soft skills and assuming for a second that you don't have too much of money at the moment to invest in your business and there is no, venture capital investor who's willing to, fund your business at the moment. So assuming all that is absent, just figure out that how can you use all your soft skills and bring it together and culminate all of that to monetize your business with the help of social media, internet, word of mouth. Figure out, who are the people in your, say, on your Facebook list who you can reach out to, who may be able to guide you or mentor you or connect you with people who can actually help you in your business. So just use your available resource skills as well as the skill sets of people you are connected with at a social level and use that to further your business.
Okay, excellent advice, Piya. Thank you so much for your time, and it was a real pleasure chatting with you, and wish you continued success in your venture.
Thank you so much.
There you have it, folks. Another inspiring story of a startup and its founder. I do hope you enjoyed it as much as we did in bringing this to you. I'll see you all next week with yet another startup and its founder. Do check out foundersgyan.com/EP32 for the show notes and feel free to share this link with your friends. The more people that get inspired, the better it is for the startup ecosystem. I'll see you all next week, but till then you know what time it is. It's time to work on your own venture today. Goodbye for now and wish you luck in your startup adventure.